Welcome back to Upon a Heathen Path, guys. Today is just an episode with just me. Stevie and I had some scheduling conflicts that we couldn't seem to sort out to match up our timing, and that's okay. We're gonna link back up. This is not gonna be a regular thing, and we're just gonna keep moving on like we intend to do with this show, one way or another, right? So before we start, before we start to today's episode, I just want to say I started my batch of my own home mead last weekend, and I cannot wait. And the experience, like, and just the joy that I have right now, just letting it ferment and degas and and just the chemistry between the yeast and the sugars and the honey. Oh, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. I can't wait to test it and taste it. And 6 months from now, hopefully, after we bottle it up. And oh man, I can't wait to share that with you guys. Hopefully it's good. It's either going to be really good or it's going to be really bad. But I'm not going to stop making it. So to whatever ends, I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to do my best to perfect making mead and letting you guys know how it goes and share with you like my experiences of mead making and the do's and don'ts. And don't just, first of all, don't get over anxious about it and don't mess with it too much. Okay, let's get into it. This episode is going to be directly tied to our branding here, where this is a show where we don't treat the old gods as characters or stories as entertainment. We walk the path of our ancestors walked, slowly, intentionally, and with the respect for the forces that still move beneath the world. And today we're turning our attention to a character of movies and games, but a god to us, Thor. Not the Thor of costumes and catchphrases, but the Thor our ancestors called upon when the storms came and when the fields need blessing and when something to stand between homes and chaos. That's when our ancestors, and that's when we call upon Thor for help, for protection, and to hold that line, right? And that's who Thor is. Thor is the god who holds the line. Thor's place on the Heathen Path, right? On the show. And who we see Thor, or I see Thor, and I'm going to say I'm not going to say we. I believe Stevie would stand with me on this, right? Thor is not Allfather, and he's not the seeker of wisdom or hidden wisdom. And he does not wander between worlds in search of secrets. Thor's place on the Heathen Path is extremely immediate and in the now, in the present tense. And he is a god who answers, who doesn't seek answers. He's a god who answers, right? And in the old worldview, the cosmos was fragile, and order didn't exist by default. It had to be maintained. It had to have constant nourishment. It had to have cradling and protection from chaos. And Thor is the one who's tasked with that maintenance. And somebody who does maintenance for a living, like, I can understand that. Like, it's important. It's beyond oneself what that calls for. And he stands between the gods and the giants, and not between the gods, but between himself. He puts himself in between that danger, right? The home in the wilderness, so the creatures that can cause hurt to the homes and to the loved ones, and then the order the world and the forces that would undo it, right? As we know, his brutal battle with Jormungandr. But Thor doesn't navigate with chaos. He absolutely meets it head on. And we love that about Thor, and that's why we praise him to this day, and we keep searching for his protection and uh, his maintenance in between our chaos and those things that we feel as a threat. Or even if we don't feel that they're a threat, he might feel they're a threat, and he's there, right? Without even question. We're going to talk about Mjolnir. I'm going to talk about Mjolnir. Sorry. Mjolnir is uh it's a sacred tool, and we find that continuously throughout archaeological uh finds that a lot of Norse pagans and followers of the Norse ways, you'd see Mjolnir pendants, right? And that's just Mjolnir being the sacred tool, and the symbol of power. It's not a symbol of power, but it's a tool of consecration. And in sources, Thor's hammer is used to bless marriages, sanctify births, protect lands, and seal oaths, right? And this matters because Thor is not just called upon in war, he's called upon in life. So there's a mixture there that this is why the hammer Mjolnir amulets were worn openly. They're not hidden. Even defiantly they were worn, right? Especially during the Christianization of the North. And to where Mjolnir was to say, this space is protected and this home is claimed. This path is defended, right? And it was that amulet, that sacred tool that carries on through this day, right? And Thor, as a god of the people, Thor was the most widely venerated god among common folk, and common folk being farmers, right? You know, the tenders to the land and the cattle and the crop, and those people are very important. And Thor knows that. All the gods know that. But the person to protect the farmers was Thor. As I'm drinking some mead now, so good. And you see, amongst other common people, it's just households themselves, travelers, and people who live close to the land. Thor is extremely physical. We know this. He eats excessively. God, there is a countless amount of stories where he eats cattle upon cattle and boar, and how much he drinks. And he more, right? And he reacts entirely off of emotional feeling, and then he meets problems with brute strength. And through that, he becomes more relatable, not because he's weak, but because he is present. Because when Thor shows up, everybody knows business is about to be had. There was no question about it. Thor was very present. He was very immediate, to the point, and honest. And he doesn't hover above Midgard. He walks in it. Like, never do you ever hear of Thor flying through Midgard, but he travels through it. He's present, right? And when you can't question Thor's service, because even in humility, he serviced beyond his own pride. It wasn't for himself, right? when Mjolnir was stolen, Thor goes into an absolute panic, right? It's not because Mjolnir is his source of power, um, but without Mjolnir, uh, the boundary between order and chaos gets extremely weakened without that tool. And that's what he panics about. It's not because he is weakened. It's we we the things that Thor protects is in an extremely vulnerable state, and we gotta love him for that. Wasn't thinking about himself, thinking about us. Um, so when Mjolnir's stolen, the short cliff of the story is, he disguises himself as Freya, and Loki makes a deal with the giant that stole it. Freya will be wed to him, but Thor never questioned the plan itself. He said, "Let's go. Let's fucking do it, boys. Let's fucking go." So Thor and Loki go out on this hunt to find Mjolnir, and we're gonna stay away from the eloquence that he lacked, but he allows the mockery and the jokes and the prodding from the other gods, because yeah, it's silly. Like it's a little humiliating, but he endures it. But why does he endure it? Because order must be maintained. The hammer must be returned. And this myth teaches essentials on the heathen path. Duty outweighs pride. And that's always something we try to resonate in each episode, I believe, is that it's our duty to continue this podcast. It's our duty to continue these stories. It's our duty to connect with other people that are followers like ourselves. And Thor doesn't protect his image, he protects the world. And you can kind of compare that to, we're trying to protect our religion. We're trying to protect what we believe in. Right? And you see his abundance of just undeniableness to himself, right? Like he doesn't his undeniable promise to protect at Ragnarok. So Thor faces Jormungandr, and all while he kills the serpent with obviously Mjolnir, what else is he going to use? Like that, he's got to have that sacred tool. That thing is so important to holding and maintaining and continuing life through the mess, through Ragnarok and after Ragnarok, right? While he kills the serpent, during the battle, Jormungandr spews venom all over Thor, and he walks 9 steps and falls. And we see the end of Thor and his unconditional devoutness to his his duty, right? His promise to the rest of us, the promise to the other gods, the promise to Midgard and all the other realms. And this doesn't mean or make Thor a failure by any means. He did his part. He did everything he was supposed to do. He couldn't change fate, and nor would he ever try to change it. And on the heathen path, we understand that some roles are not just about survival, they're about fulfillment. And Thor's work is complete when the chaos is stopped, even though it does cost him his life, and it costs us something very important too when Ragnarok happens. And that's disheartening, but you can't change fate. fate does not change. You have to be the fulfillment of fate. And it takes a special kind of person to set aside that that voice, that pride that we all have to say, that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to do this. Right. So then we see Thor. We're going to talk about Thor in a more modern lens, as we see him on television, we see him on video games, right? And in modern media, uh, Thor is softened in the movie setting, in the Marvel films, which are good films, right? They have their purpose. Stan Lee did great with what he intended those to be, and but the way that Thor is portrayed is he's humorous, he's emotionally expressive, and he's on a personal journey of growth, right? And there are echoes of old Thor here. Yes, he is the protector. It's the thunder. He has the hammer. But there's an essential shift between Thor and Marvel Thor. The mythic Thor doesn't seek worthiness or praise or glory. Yes, he boasts. But when you're a bad motherfucker like that, you're gonna. But you're saying, I'm gonna come beat your fucking ass. But you're doing it he's doing it with the intent to protect, not the intent to like boast himself or make himself bigger than what he's his intent, his purpose is supposed to be. Mythic Thor, he embodies it and he never questions his role and he fulfills it, while you see in all the Marvel movies that, Chris Hemsworth did a great job, not gonna lie. You know what? They were good movies. But he was just a comedic, witty, and self-preserved person. And for the movie intent, cool. For the intent of the character, not cool. And not cool as in like, you got it wrong. Well, that's not what we know. That's not the truth, right? And then you see in God of War Ragnarok, which if you've never played, sorry, but it was a really good fucking game. It was really good. It was so good. But it's probably one of the more modern depiction that comes closer to the old ways that we know and the more mythic Thor. And that you see the character in the game of Thor is feared. He's extremely brutal. He's emotionally damaged, and dude, he is so fucked up. And like in the game, Odin has him extremely corrupted. Even Sif does too, and it's hard to explain if you haven't played it, but you can probably watch a short film on like a small explanation on kind of the outline of it, what it all entails, and who Thor character was in the game, and it's so heartbreaking the way it goes, honestly. Because Trud in the game was one of his daughters, ends up obtaining Mjolnir after the Ragnarok happens, because in the game Ragnarok happens and it's outplayed, and it's not accurate. So in the game, Thor doesn't die from Jormungandr. He dies from actually your own hands, as the main character of the game is Kratos. It's obviously there's some fault there, and throughout the entire game, he's used as a weapon by Odin, and this reflects something with the myths that imply, but rarely named outright, to be the defender of order is to carry an immense cost. And Thor absorbs the violence of the cosmos so others don't have to. And it's in a different sense, right? It's here and there, but it's not accurate. Again, great fucking game. So good. Santa Monica Studios did amazing with that game. I'm not gonna lie. I've played it a couple times, and you just can't get enough of it. But I can get enough of the inaccuracies. So, in walking with Thor current day on the Heathen Path, Thor is still extremely present, as I'm showing you my Mjolnir pendant, that he's not a character. He's not he's not a cape, a red cape. He's not witty. He's not charismatic, and he's not out for anything else but his intended purpose to protect and to provide. But he's also an extreme force that we know and honestly like fear and respect, right? So how we see and how I use Thor to this day is I use them when I feel like boundaries are a little bit crossed. And those are my own boundaries. Whether right, wrong, or different, they're still my boundaries. And I'm going to do whatever I can to protect them. When my home is threatened, first of all, like I'm going to do everything to protect my home. Literally everything. There's not a soul in this world that will invade my home. And when communities must be defended, hence this podcast, right? And how loudly we're going to speak about, we're not going to be quiet. You're not going to silence us. You're not going to tell us to sit down and be a good boy, because that ain't fucking us, bud. We're not going to do that. And if there needs to be another voice to say that, here it is, right here. I'm saying it. We're not going to be quiet. You're not going to keep us in the back. My brothers and sisters, come forth and just give them a big old middle finger, you know? Because Thor teaches us through all the lore and all the stories that he teaches a strength without cruelty, right? Action without hesitation. It goes back to he's an emotionally reactive person. And that's okay, because he feels like he's absolutely doing the right thing. But us, like, obviously we have a little bit more consequences to deal with, but still, the actions without hesitation, I think that means how we can put it today is if you thoroughly believe in this path, act upon it, right? Act upon it within the safe domain of others, yourself, your families, your home, your community. Sure. But act without hesitation. Don't stop because you fear the way that you're going to be seen, or there's a slight chance of humility that you're going to endure. We're all going to face it. We're all going to feel it. We're all going to have to deal with it. But that doesn't mean we change the character of who we are and what we believe and our intended purpose. But with that, we have to accept the other thing that Thor teaches us is that the responsibility without recognition. Obviously, in the movies, Thor behaves for recognition. He wants to be seen. He wants that that glory. He wants the praise. That's not our Thor. That's not Mythic Thor. That's not the Thor we know. So we have to live our lives with a responsibility and the know-how that we're not doing what we do for recognition. Other than we're going to embrace our friends, our family, our community, our loved ones, but we're doing it without recognition, right? There's got to be a voice that says, we're doing it because this is the right thing to do, not because I want to be famous. And we have to remind ourselves all the time that Thor is never once asked to be admired. He's asked to be relied on, but never admired. And leaving that with is Thor's not subtle wisdom, he is the thunder. He is the answer to chaos when words fail. So we always try to meet chaos with some sort of middle ground. And when words fail, there's stops, right? And on the Heathen Path, we remember him not because he's entertaining, but because he is absolutely necessary. Because someone must be always willing to stand between the world we love and the forces that would tear it apart. That is Thor. That is who Thor is, and the god who holds the line. And as we step away from Thor today, I want you to try to remember this. Strength isn't always loud, and protection isn't always prayed. And the heaviest roles aren't often carried in silence. Thor doesn't ask to be, he doesn't ask us to be gods. He asks us to be always steadfast and to defend what is sacred, to stand firm when chaos presses in, to hold the line when walking away would be way easier. And if this episode stirred something with you, sit with it. Light a candle. Touch the earth. Wear the hammer with intention, not decoration, right? And when the storms come, internal or otherwise, remember that thunder is not rage. It is a response. Thank you for walking this stretch of the path with me, guys. Until next time, walk with honor, stand with courage, and may your home remain protected. See you.